time for today's perspective. And your mission is to not only celebrate the natural beauty of the animal world, but also to raise awareness of the crucial issues facing the magnificent creatures. How would you go about it? Well, it was the challenge for wildlife photographer Graeme Green. So he came up with a rather unique idea to do just that in a new book, which is called The New Big Five. And he joins us now. Graeme, thanks very much for joining us on the programme. We're going to look at some of the photographs and talk about some of them individually in just a moment, if we can. But first of all, the book's called The New Big Five. I'm going to let you explain exactly why it's called that. What's the idea behind it?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. The old Big Five is an old colonial idea. It came from the trophy hunters who set this Big Five of the 5 animals that they most like to shoot and kill. My thinking is that that's very outdated, cruel, meaningless to most people, whereas wildlife photography is thriving and it's a great way to celebrate wildlife. So my idea about 10 years ago was to come up with a new Big Five, and I launched this project about 2 years ago. I set up a website, newbig5.com, and we invited people around the world to vote for the 5 animals that they most wanted to see in photos and they most loved taking photos of. And the new Big Five was born. The 5 animals are lion, elephant, polar bear, gorilla, and tiger. So an international list, all of them absolutely popular, iconic creatures, and all of them sadly facing threats to their existence.
And a lot of the pictures within there obviously are all sorts of other different species as well. I pulled out just a few of them to have a look at. One of them is the, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the gharial and its babies. It looks like some kind of crocodile or alligator, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The whole point of the project was not just to focus on the iconic species, but to draw people into this idea and to draw them into the fact that so many species are at risk of extinction. So what I tried to do with the book when I was curating the images was really show the diversity that's at risk. There's everything from bees to blue whales. There's everything from birds to, as you said, the gharial there. There's frogs. We are at risk of losing incredible diversity, and it's not just the big classic animals that people think of like the rhino. It is the bee, it is the beetle, it is the vulture. All these animals that do incredible roles, they serve an incredible purpose in the natural world, and we'll all be much worse if we lose them.
And that is all the babies, isn't it? Kind of clambering over the back of the gharial there we're seeing in that image.
It is. It's an absolutely incredible shot. What I wanted to do with the book was make sure that every single image justified its position there and was a outstanding, remarkable, creative photo. That's one example. In the endangered chapter of the book, there's around 60 or 70 photos from pangolins through to lemurs. And each one of them, it's not just a document, it's a really incredible creative photo that shows the beauty of the natural world.
Let's have a look at another one then. This is the Atlantic Goliath grouper. This one taken off of Florida. Tell us about it.
Well, this isn't one of my photos. I have around 40 or 50 photos in the book, and then there are many photos by different photographers from all over the world, from Paul Nicklin to Amy Vitale to Art Wolfe. This one, again, just an incredibly creative photo. Must have taken an incredible amount of time and patience to get that shot of the grouper. Fish I wanted to put in there because fish don't get much attention. I mentioned the rhino. Elephants and lions get a lot of attention. People maybe don't care so much about fish, but of course we all rely on fish. We need it for food, but also for the health of the oceans. So to celebrate and to highlight an animal like the grouper felt important to me, and that's why there's all kinds of species, large and small.
I hope I pulled out some of yours. I've got a feeling I haven't here, Graeme. We've got the Iberian lynx from Spain here.
Liana, I think he's a Spanish photographer. One of the things with the book is that I tried to cover as many photographers from many different parts of the world. I think we all know that photography can sometimes feel quite limited to a certain group of people, and I wanted to make sure that we represented all over the world. This is a lynx, again, just an absolutely beautiful cat. And I think people think that when an animal looks like that, probably it's doing fine and that they're doing okay, and yet it's another species that is at a risk if we don't change course.
So how do you choose which photos to put in and which ones to miss out?
Well, that was difficult. I had around 16,000 images submitted by over the world. I also looked through a lot of Instagram accounts and a lot of people's websites. I was really looking for again a photo that really stood out. I think we see a lot of wildlife photos online. We see a lot of them in newspapers and books, and I wanted to make sure that every single image in this book stood out. And then it's a case of balancing it up. So we have, for example, amazing aerial shots from planes or from drones. We have beautiful close-ups of whether it's an eye or a tail. I think you're showing some of mine at the moment, which I tend to go for a lot of tender moments and try and capture, special moments with wildlife. I wanted to show a great deal of diversity in the creativity of the images as well as the species.
And why do you think books like this are so important? I mean, you talked a little bit at the beginning about what the theme was, but why is it so vital, do you think, to connect these books to individual people?
Well, I think firstly, it's important to see these animals. We need to know, you mentioned the gharial right at the beginning, we need to know that these animals are going, they're disappearing. So to see them and perhaps to fall in love with them a bit, but definitely to start caring about them and to understand what's happening is important. So photography can be really powerful there. But one of the things I tried to do with the book is have some real substance behind the images. So we've got, for example, essays by Jane Goodall, Paula Kahumbu, Wes Seacrest from Rewild. And I also wrote some in-depth chapters where I look at things like inequality and poverty and how those things feed into what's happening with wildlife. I look at the illegal wildlife trade. We look at climate change and look in detail at some of the things that can be done. One of the things that I wanted to try and get across with the book is that this isn't a done deal, this isn't over. It's difficult sometimes when there's so much bad news to feel hopeful, but I wanted to talk to the people that are doing incredible things, and there are solutions available. One of the things I write in the book is that future generations won't forgive us for having these solutions in our hands and not taking them. We know what the solutions are, we just need to start acting a lot more urgently.
And Graeme, looking at some of your pictures and the pictures of all your colleagues there, I mean, what is it that drives you, if you like, to do what you do? I know you don't just take wildlife pictures, do you? You take all sorts of different pictures as well. What is it about photography, I suppose?
My background is as a journalist. I always loved photography, and I used to wander around with a camera taking sort of arty black and white photos of things that interested me. And then I started going out into the world as a journalist. One of the first stories I ever covered was vultures in Nepal, who, again, are not much celebrated bird, but one that's got a lot of character and that also is absolutely essential to nature. So I think I started, falling more and more in love with the natural world, but also learning more and more about the issues. And photography became more and more part of my job. So I started photographing the wildlife as part of my assignments, and gradually it became more and more part of my life. It's a lovely, peaceful, exhilarating feeling to be in front. I think you might be able to see a gorilla in the background of me. I was photographing them in Rwanda about a year ago. To be up close, 5 or 6, 7 meters away from a silverback, 200 kilograms of gorilla is exhilarating. To be underwater with a shark, there's shark on your screen at the moment, is just a fantastic feeling. And elephants and lions in the world, to be standing on the ground and to see them on the grass, standing on the same soil as you, is an incredible feeling. So that was the thing that got me. But then it becomes, once you start really appreciating nature, you also start learning more about what's happening. So that became the motive with the New Big Five project and the book. It became, how can we use this idea and this creativity and this beautiful photography?
And we've lost you right at the end. Graeme, I'm going to stop you. Thank you very much with that wonderful image of the beast, if you like, looking over your shoulder. Graeme Green, thank you very much for joining us from Chesterfield, the book called The New Big Five. Good to talk to you today. Thanks.